Okay, so let's get started. Hello to everybody. My name's Adriana, and I am the director at Learn to Thrive. We are a counseling and coaching practice in Kenwood, Ohio, and we are celebrating 10 years of being in business, and I can't believe it's been 10 years. And I have some very, very important people here with me today. Emily Bauman and Amanda Wolf and Katie March are with me. And they have really been an important part of Learn to Thrive and have helped it grow and invested a lot. And so I'm really excited that we're going to be focusing on Katie today um, because of the timing. So, the timing of people are launching their kids to college coming up soon. And this is a really, really significant time. And so we thought that we would do our very first Ask a Therapist at Learn to Thrive webinar highlighting our college readiness program, which you're going to get to hear about. And my hope for this, I mean, this is the inaugural webinar for Learn to Thrive. My hope for this series, we're hoping to do this once a month, is to be able to bring the things that we talk about in our therapy and coaching sessions to you. A lot of people maybe don't want to consult with a coach or a therapist, or maybe they don't know if they need one, or maybe they're doing really well, but they just still want to grow. They still want to learn. And so I thought, why wait for people to come to us? Why not come to you? And the other thing I wanted is for you all to be able to ask your questions directly to us. In a live kind of conversational format. And so we're trying this on for size this first time. There may be a time where we get releases signed and we can have your cameras on and we can have it in a much more, um, you know, conversational but intimate setting. But for now, we're trying this. So I really appreciate those of you who have joined us for the first time. You're our guinea pigs, and we're excited. We're excited to have you. Um, Throughout our time, if you have questions, I encourage you to post those in the chat or make a note about them. What we're going to do is we're going to spend our time kind of talking about college readiness, talking about what Katie sees when she works with someone who's struggling in college. So we're kind of a little bit of a presentation and a conversation between Amanda, Emily, Katie, and I. So hold your questions, and then the second half of the webinar, that's when you're going to be able to unmute to ask your question live or put it in the chat, and Emily's going to come back on screen and she's going to ask the questions that you put in the chat. What we're going to try to remember to do is that when you ask a question live, we're going to repeat it because when we record this and splice and edit it, we will edit your voice out again because we don't have your permission to use it on our socials. So that's just the technical part. So please make a note of your questions. The second half is reserved for that. The other thing that's going to be happening is you're going to get a follow-up email afterwards with a link to our YouTube channel. And then just be checking over the next week. That's where you'll find the edited version of this webinar. There may be people that you know that have, right, people who are going off to college. They're launching their students to college that either didn't hear about this webinar or you think, wow, this might be of great help to them. And because it is a coaching program, this could go to, if you have a niece in California that's going to college, you send it to them. This is a coaching. This is not a therapy program, um, unless that is needed. This can be just a coaching program, which means it can be anyone from within Ohio or outside of Ohio. So we'd love for you to forward this link to other people if you think that it would be a benefit. And if you just want to go back and remember some of the things that were said, you're welcome to watch the video again. So I'd like to let you know that at the end, and you'll have it in the chat, um, please know that you can get direct one-on-one conversation with Katie after this. If you would like to set up an appointment with Katie to talk with her. She can do a free 20-minute discovery call to see if your student would benefit from this program. And I know parents have a lot of questions. And what I like about how Katie works with college students is involving parents if the college student wants that. And we think that's really important here at our practice, is involving family members if it's appropriate. So please know that we would love for you to schedule that call if you have any questions, and that information is in the chat. All right, so enough with introductions. Katie, is it okay if I go ahead and share a metaphor before you and I start our conversation? And I think this metaphor will apply. Um, so there's a metaphor I use when I'm working with clients for anxiety. And that metaphor is that of being in a boat on the ocean and seeing a storm coming, right? And so when you're on the ocean, you can see far, far away, and seeing the storm coming. And the more we focus on the storm and the waves are getting higher and there's thunderbolts, and, I can already feel like that even makes me nervous thinking about that right now. I'm focusing on all of the storm that I'm about to go through, and I start to fret. But if we can instead focus on the boat and what I need to do in the boat to get ready for what's coming, if I can batten down the hatches, if I can change the sails, if I can get life vests and row, my life vests and make sure the rowboats are ready, if I can focus on the boat, then I can navigate the storm. But as soon as my eyes go back up to the storm, I'm feeling tossed and, in a kind of a frenzy. And I think that's how anxiety is. We look out and we focus on what's going on out there, when really, if we can look inside and prepare ourselves to handle what's coming, then the anxiety goes down because we've got preparedness. And we can't control the storm, but we can control the condition of the boat. We can control ourselves and how we move through things. And I think that that's what Katie does so well with college students, and really with any of her clients. She works with all ages, but really any of her clients, to focus on what you can control and connect to your values. And you're going to hear her talk about that. So there's another phrase too that I think about: prepare the path for the child, or prepare the child for the path. If we prepare the path for the child, then they don't know how to move through the world. We've always like cushioned them and protected them, right? But if we prepare the child for the path, whatever road they end up on, they will be resilient. So that's kind of, I just want you to know that's how we're approaching this. And um, so for that, I just want you to know, if you're launching a student, my heart is with you. I have launched 3 boys to college. It was different every time. I had to work on my own sense of losing control. I had to work on my own emotions of letting go of these precious people that I got to watch grow up right before my very eyes. So I know this is a very exciting and emotional time for you all. And so I just want to honor that you are, seeking what's best for your child. And I know that this is going to be a change for you guys, and your family will change, and you will survive. It's really good on the other side, I can tell you that. All right. So Katie, are you ready to chat?
Yes. Yes. Thanks, Adriana.
So now you've heard from me, and now you get to hear from Katie. So how are you feeling, Katie, coming into this?
Good. I actually appreciate that metaphor you shared. I think that's such a beautiful, that is my passion is preventative care. You'll hear me talk about it a lot in this webinar, of just my years of working alongside college students, some that have reached out to me during their college experience, and others that have found me before heading off to college. And the success really has been found in the students that are coming to me early, and pay, understanding the path ahead of them. And I appreciate the metaphor of being on that boat and saying, what can I do in advance? What can I do to prepare now when I'm in the safety of my home in high school, to allow me to find my values and to create a meaningful life for myself, both at home and at school, and my with this upcoming change.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought of you because I know we've had lots of conversations and I know you're so passionate about college kids and I was hoping you would find that really helpful.
Yeah.
Katie comes to Learn to Thrive already with a lot of experience. So Katie's been with us for several years, but prior to that, she was a counselor at the counseling department there at Xavier University. And so all of her caseload was just college students, right? So she really developed just a heart for college students, a heart for what they're going through. And boy, times have been changing. A lot has happened in the last decade. College is different than even 10 years ago. And when Katie arrived to Learn to Thrive, she shared her passion with college about working with college students. And so a lot of our people that call in end up with Katie. And so she really has a pulse of what's going on. She works with students all over the state of Ohio. She does virtual sessions with students who are at Ohio State, at Miami University, that aren't here, right in the city of Cincinnati. And she also does in-person sessions with college kids. So she's been at this for a long time and seen how the college environment has changed and what students are currently navigating. I would say that, Katie's heart for developing a preventative and a prepared program really comes out of getting those calls mid-semester
Mhm.
where kids are really, really struggling. And I thought, Katie, this would be a good time for you to share, like, what are the major challenges that you see kids are facing? Kids, I should say students, they're young adults.
Mhm.
Students are facing in college when they're transitioning from high school to college, and maybe share a little bit about that.
Yeah, the rise in anxiety in college students has risen dramatically over the last 10 or 15 years. So I'm seeing an increase in anxiety and depression among college students, an inability to focus, lack of motivation, struggle to leave the dorm. We live in a very virtual world nowadays. There's like desire to get out and meet friends and leave the dorm, but a fear of doing how to do that and how to what's on the other side of my dorm, my safety of my dorm, my four dorm walls.
Mm,
um, Not being able to manage time management, so understanding, there was maybe more hand holding through high school of getting your work done and turning assignments in and going to class and the expectation that you showed up to high school every morning. So time management and attending classes, the motivation to attend classes, a lot of homesickness.
mm,
For a lot of kids, it's the first time they've been away from home for a long period of time. And even if it's not that far, even if you're just down the road, I think just living in a new environment is creates a lot of fear and anxiety. Um, and then I think alongside leaving your dorm comes just social pressures and social anxiety of meeting new friends and building a community.
yeah,
Lisa.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's like, there was the phrase, and I don't even know if students use this now, guys, because I work with adults, and so this might sound corny, but adulting, it just for them to they may have been really confident in high school, but then to be thrown into this place where there's a lot of excitement and a lot of people, but they're now having to order their time and try to create balance when the home and the parents and the family system have been their sense of balance. And now they're having to find that in a new place. And so Katie really focuses on how do they find that within themselves and then take that again back to the boat analogy and then take that through. So I just wanted to share I was looking up some research on this, but according to the Mayo Clinic, data shows that almost half of our college students experience symptoms of depression and anxiety. That's half of them, right? But then of those 50%, only 75% seek help. And, I think, Katie, what do you see? What happens when kids, students, wait too long? Like, what are you seeing when they wait too long before they reach out for somebody to help?
They're less likely. So the longer they wait and the bigger it feels, um, it just feels so paralyzing. So I think that it feels that if I haven't gotten help now? How do I possibly, now my depression is worse and now I really can't, now I'm completely withdrawn and I'm struggling to leave the dorm or make that phone call to set up an appointment. Um, and it's just more because it's not preventative care anymore. Now we're just in survival mode. So they've already missed too many classes, or it's the end of the semester and they haven't connected with their professors, and they don't have a community to lean on. And so I think the longer they wait, I'm just seeing an increase in the overwhelm and the anxiety to tackle the situation at hand.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of shame, I think, with college students, and I work it from the other. I work with the parents of kids who are struggling, students who are struggling to launch. Sometimes I'm brought in as the family therapist or the parent coaches, and Katie or Hannah, another one of our therapists, will work with the college student, and I'll work with the parents because it's really hard as a parent when you see your student struggling. You want to save them, right? And you walk this really fine line in parenting. And I know you sometimes end up helping parents walk that fine line, Katie,
Mhm,
between helping too much,
mhm,
and kind of overstepping and overparenting versus not helping enough, not
mhm,
being, kind of coaching them through what does it look like to support. And obviously that's very different for each student.
mhm,
What each student needs is very different. Um, I think that prevention and preparation, it's harder for people to consider that. A lot of times
mhm,
we react to what negative things are happening, but we don't think about, um, what do we do ahead of time. Yet, I think there's a great opportunity, because parents of seniors are used to, hiring coaches or thinking about preparation when they're going through the college application process, right? There's
mhm,
just like, yes, we need to surround and support, and we need to help this, student select a college. And so I see our program as just the next step from that
mhm.
in helping bridge the transition. So, Katie, if you, how do you think that working, let's say someone waits too long. I mean, we want to work on
Mhm.
preparation, but let's just what do you think is the benefit of working with a college readiness coach like yourself? What are the benefits of that?
Well, I will say that the um, really this whole idea of college readiness that I do in my office was born from what you said when I was at Xavier, when I was working with college students. I always thought to myself, had we tackled some of this in high school, or had they learned how to connect with a therapist, or felt the comfort of having an outside perspective to share some of their worries and fears, would this have prevented more students from feeling connected and adjusted in college sooner? Um, and so I think the benefit of college readiness is one of the biggest things for me is the rapport building, is that having a relationship with a therapist or a coach, um, prior to situations happening, so that when the situations arise, they feel that they can reach out and they don't have to start building that relationship when they're going through such a hard time.
Mhm.
And some people do wait until they're going through a hard time, and that works too. I have a lot of success still with
Mhm.
walking alongside an a very anxious child, or a very anxious or depressed student, and helping them seek the resources and help that they need, and whether that be continuing to work with me or finding help on campus.
Mhm.
Um, so, and I don't know if, sorry, I'm not answering your question directly, but I don't know if it's
Yeah.
helpful for me to go through the process of what it
Yeah.
is to be involved in the program that I run.
Yeah, yeah, I think that would be. I mean, I just wanted people to know if people wait, you're still there for them. I mean,
Yes.
that's the whole point, is that's what you've been doing. You've been doing that, but now you're trying to be ahead of the game. And how can I
Hmm.
prep? Because you do work with high school seniors currently
Hmm.
here. And so you're trying to do that. Will you just talk about kind of your what the program looks like, kind of what what are the, features of it, like what you're helping them identify, and then how you bridge that into the first semester of college. I think people would love to hear that.
Yeah. So what has worked well is that I'll meet with, I really do individualized plans for each student that comes in my office. Every student is dealing with different stressors, and although there's a lot of similarity, they're all headed off to college. There's still within that is so many different ways that people react to the adjustment of leaving home. So I will meet individually with the student first. And then I will do an individual session either with parents alone or parent and their child together. And that's just to evaluate where that student is, kind of with their baseline of how comfortable are they talking about what's going on in their life, what fears and concerns might they have heading off to college, or even at that point, sometimes it's even how to pick a college that's right for me. And then the parents also, what concerns are they seeing? They know their child, they know their child well, so they have their own concerns of what they might see as either struggles their child has already had in high school and things that they're concerned that they're going to take with them to college. After that, I would do about 6 to 8 sessions over the summer, so maybe from May to August, and that's where I'm utilizing a model called the ACT model. It's acceptance and commitment therapy. And in that model, it's a values-based mindfulness treatment approach that helps students build a meaningful life both at home and at school. And so over the course of the summer, over the course before they leave, is we're looking at what values that student has, not what values I have or what values I want for them to have, and truly not what their parents' values are for them. But now that they're reaching adulthood, what are the values of that child, that student? How do they want to live out those values at school to create a meaningful life for themselves? And what barriers have gotten in the way, not only in high school, but may get in the way going forward in college? What kind of short-term strategies are they using that are keeping them stuck in anxiety, depression, or just stuck in a stressful situation? And how do we create more long-term solutions for them to live out that meaningful life with their values and mindfulness practices as they head off and live in a new environment? After they head off to college, I usually give students between 2 and 3 weeks to just get settled. And then I reach out to them and get a session scheduled on the calendar for a check-in. Just how is school going? And I have just a huge list of questions that I ask every student, just because I'm very familiar with the college setting of just all the ways in which life might have been difficult in those first few weeks, the adjustment that they're going through as they're getting settled. So then at that point is when we evaluate how has life been for them there. What might they need from me? I both will give recommendations to them, but I'll also just meet them where they're at. They might feel that school is really stressful and they just need a few weeks to breathe again, and that they ask me to check in a month later. I would say on average, I'm seeing students, I would say 3 to 4 times in the first semester. Sometimes they're just check-ins. Sometimes students are doing really well and they just get to call me and tell me how well they're living out their values and how connected they're feeling. And they set goals each session. So they'll say, I did the goals we set and I feel really proud of myself. And sometimes they talk through the barriers that are keeping them from meeting their goals. And I can help walk that journey alongside them as they're adjusting to their new environment. One of the most important pieces, I think, of the program is then when they come home for Christmas break or for holiday break. Usually students are home for around a month. It's really hard to find a therapist to get a new session appointment in that 1 month that you're home, but they have the benefit of already being connected to me. So they're already on my calendar before they even come home. For students, it's sometimes they spend those 2 to 3 sessions over holiday break. They'll spend reflecting and processing what went well and what didn't go well in the first semester. And sometimes students are spending that time processing what it's like to come back home, and that there's both an adjustment leaving home and an adjustment coming back home. We see our families in different ways when we step away for a while. So there's a lot of processing that happens there. And then I will follow them into second semester. There's another huge wave of homesickness that'll set in coming back in January for students, as well as a lot of anxiety about social settings. I think everyone is expected to have made their group and built their communities, and some students just don't feel that. So there's a lot of work to be done coming back second semester. I will what I do is I then check in with them at the end of January after they've come back to school. And that's when we reevaluate what we need after that. So that's really where the program can end, or I can evaluate the student and make recommendations going forward of what's needed, whether we continue through second semester and into the summer, or we just set goals and check in when needed.
Wow, thank you for giving the overview. I mean, these are really important components that I'm hearing from you. Is first just that initial getting to know the student, getting to know the parents, hearing from the parents what they think their concerns are, and then just working over the summer with the student to identify their values, to help them talk through any fears, anxieties, excitements, and being kind of that building that rapport with them and doing the act work, that acceptance and commitment work on around their values. And then I think the critical piece that is so powerful, I think, about this program that you're building is those check-ins during the first semester that they already have identified, who they are, who they want to be, how they want to move through this transition, and then you're checking back with them. And it's not necessarily even to hold them accountable. It's just like, hey, I'm a safe person. How's it going out there? And I work with a lot of people in this college setting, and how can I help you either realign or get aligned or celebrate the wins? I think that when I think about who might be a good match for this program, who could really utilize it, can you say a little more about that? Because I know some students may not have full-blown diagnosable depression and anxiety, but maybe they have a lot of shyness or a lot of social awkwardness, or maybe they're not. Maybe they're exuberant and fun, but they really have a lot of homesickness. Like, who would be the right student for your work?
Yeah. I would say that, I mean, the therapist in me wants to say that everybody can benefit from a college coach when you're heading out to and moving to a new environment for the first time. I don't think anyone doesn't qualify. But I think that's really why I lean on parents. I think parents, your kids best. If you have several children at home, you can tell the one that's gonna be extra homesick, or you can tell the one that might have been a perfectionist in high school and is going to struggle when college might throw some harder classes at them, or they might not get straight A's right away. Or so I would say students who just feel hesitant and fearful of that next phase of life, who maybe you've noticed throughout their childhood, they've really struggled with change. Some people, I mean, change is hard for everybody, but some people struggle even more with change than others. So just feeling like you have a kid who just needs a little bit of hand-holding in a moment of change, who you feel might go off to college and might not share a lot with you, and out of fear of they may just hold it all in, someone who holds a lot in until they explode. The preventative care or having a coach that checks in on them is beneficial to catch things before it gets too big. Kind of to reiterate, yeah.
Well, I know also, I appreciate that you say it's not just the one who maybe has struggled with shyness or awkwardness or anxiety and depression in high school that absolutely would benefit from working with a coach. But I appreciate that you said even the one who's been really perfectionistic, straight A student. I know we worked with the family. I was working with the mother, and you were working with the student, of that, just the intense pressure the student was putting on themselves to get into that college, and just the intensity and the parents' concern of how is she going to handle any tiny little failure, like she will just implode, and we kind of work together, me from the parent side, you from the student side. So I appreciate that you talk about those students, and of course as a coach you think anyone could benefit from this, right? So I appreciate that you say that. Okay, I think, was there anything else that you wanted to say before we go into questions from the chat or asking people to come on live?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think the piece you touched on about that critical piece of me checking in with them when they get to college, I would say the amount of students that so when they leave me in August and they're getting ready and we get really excited and we celebrate them before their move-in date, I say to them, I give them a date. I say, on September 15th is when I reach out to all of my college students. You're going to get a text from me. I do texting because it just reaches college students a little bit better. You're going to get a text from me that's just asking how you're doing, checking in and giving you a couple options of times that we could check in over the 2 weeks after that. And the amount of students that come back and say, I'm so glad you reached out because I thought I was doing okay and I'm not, but I don't think I would have. Like, life's busy and I have all these new friends, and when I wake up in the morning, life feels good, but when I'm going to bed at night, life feels really hard. And thank you so much for reaching out and putting me on your calendar, because I think I would have waited 2 more months to reach out. And so that's another point. So when it's not too late to get connected, right? Like, even if you didn't get connected this summer, it's not too late for you to reach out and say, could you just reach out to my student in the beginning of the school year? Because let's not wait till Christmas break, till they come
Right.
home and they had a really tough first semester.
Yeah. No, I just love your heart with that too. And it's exactly why you're such a great fit for Learn to Thrive. And you've really helped us create this high touch, high feel, that we really want to walk alongside our clients, whether they're coaching clients or therapy clients, in a very relational way that is not a medical model, that is not, like other behavioral health care, which is all very, very needed. But in private practice and at our practice, that we really do want to walk alongside and be very relational with our clients. And they feel that. They're like, yeah, I wouldn't have reached out and I really know I need that. And so I appreciate you sharing that. All right, so I'm going to ask Emily to come back on, and we're going to ask if there any questions that any of you who are here live would like to unmute and ask. And then we'll also do some questions from the chat. But first, I want to start with anybody who's here who wants to unmute and ask a question. Need that music again.
I see something in the chat about, someone said, can you share some practical strategies to help my teen build resilience before they leave home? If that's okay, I'd be happy to
Yeah.
answer that question.
Yeah, and then after that one, I'll
Yeah.
have Emily pick another one from the chat, and then you can just focus on that. So yeah, thank you for taking that, Katie.
Yeah, I think that that it's important to, I think resilience is it's letting the leash go a little bit of your child, which feels hard. It's really hard to let your children go, to watch them become young adults. So I think on just the baseline is like, can they do their laundry? Can they make themselves a meal? Can they set their own alarm clock and get up on their own? Can they get to school on time? Can they call and make a doctor's appointment? Can they grocery shop? So those would just be simple strategies, maybe not simple for everyone, but some strategies of things that kids can be learning to do alongside you at home, because there could be a little hand holding, but also a lot of pushing for them to do those things alone. So building independence would be important. And then also encouraging them to lean on peers, on teachers, and on yourself for asking for help. I think learning to ask for help is huge, and that builds a lot of resilience. And then that would be stuff before they leave home. But I think once they're there, I do a lot of parent coaching on really getting your student to figure things out on their own. I know you can't call their professors in college and ask for extra time on their tests or to turn their assignments in late. So I think just a lot of how can they take responsibility for themselves. And that's some of the coaching I do over the summer. Kind of to speak back on the perfectionists. I see a lot of students who are perfectionists, and they might have had all A's in college or in high school, and there are times where I've encouraged them to get a B the second half of senior year. They're already into college. Their GPA is pretty set. getting a B in a class in high school is really important. It's really hard to get your first B away from home in college. So
Mm-hmm.
that's just kind of from a humorous perspective. That's something I try to do.
Right. Right.
Not everyone, people usually grumble back at me, but I'm like, if we could get you one B, I think you would leave home in a lot better space.
Yeah, so interesting.
Well, thank you,
Thank
Katie.
you.
This is great. I'm going to bring you another question, Katie, from the chat, if that's okay.
Mhm.
Okay, the roommate dynamic
Mhm.
certainly is a dynamic when you go off to
Mhm.
college. So, can you share with us some tips to enhance really just a healthy mindset for a college student to embrace surrounding this whole roommate dynamic?
Yes. I always tell students when they go off to college, your roommate does not need to be your best friend. They can be a peer, they can be a companion, they can easily be the person you grab meals with for the first few weeks. Sometimes those relationships click and people have beautiful roommate relationships. When they are purely just a roommate, I encourage people to just have a lot of open communication. And so that stuff I'll do with clients, with students over the course of those check-ins in the semester, is to help them build tools such as I'll have each roommate write their schedule down on the back of the door, and so that because I think something that people struggle with is not knowing when they're going to have alone time in the room. And so
Mm,
that's been really beneficial for people just to see, okay, my roommate is always gone Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 11 to 1. I know that I get quiet time to myself to regroup from 11 to 1. I've also had them communicate to their roommates just what they need. Like, hey, if I have my headphones in when I walk in, it's because I just don't feel like talking. And it's not rude, and it's not because I don't want to be friends with you, but this is my safe space. And so just really communicating with roommates that this room belongs to both of us and this environment needs to be where I thrive. And I may want to talk all the time and I might want peace and quiet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that's so helpful. I remember you've shared that with me, Katie, and I've passed that on to other mothers in that season with the schedule on the back of the door. It's those practical tips that
Yeah.
just are so courteous and really set us up for all of life, depending on how much alone time you like.
Yeah.
So that's such a great tip. Okay, another question from the chat, Katie. We've been saying, even though the anxiety numbers have spiked at a clinical level in college, just in a normal day-to-day way, anxiety is somewhat normal when we make big life transitions for college
Mhm.
students. So, what tips do you have for parents to help comfort their young adult when they're in this transition and not be rescuing but yet help comfort and soothe just that transitional anxiety?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah.
I think that normalizing it. I think anxiety is so normal. Fear, scared, you could call it nervous, you can call it what you want, but it's scary. It's nerve-wracking to go move somewhere new for the first time. I think the importance of normalizing it, giving them encouraging them to take with them like maybe a little basket for their anxiety, so things that make them feel comforted. And creating a safe space in their room to feel the anxiety. So don't push it away, but just own it. Kind of to go off the ocean metaphor from the beginning, Adriana, that our anxiety is just like the waves in the ocean, and they're always there. They will always come. There's never not waves at the ocean, and so we can stand firm in the sand, and we can let the waves hit us and knock us over, and it can knock us over and over, or we can stand firm and let the waves come over us and then head back out into the ocean. And so what allows us to stand firm in the sand and not get knocked over by the wave? And that's both from building up their resilience, building up their self-esteem, encouraging them that they're strong enough to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Not necessarily letting them come home every weekend of the first semester. I think it's really important to make them stay.
Mm-hmm.
Limiting the amount of times they come home is a
Yeah.
big one.
Mm-hmm.
And when they call, giving them the space to vent to you, but also encouraging them to go utilize the resources available to them on campus. So familiarizing yourself with resources on your child's campus is helpful too.
That brings up something for me, if I can pipe in here, Emily.
Yes.
There have been times, and I think this is another benefit of establishing a relationship with a therapist or a coach during this transition time. There have been times, Katie, that you have intervened when one of the students is not doing well, whether they need to get counseling at their college more in depth, more like weekly. If they're in the state of Ohio and you want to switch to therapy, you can provide that virtually. But if they're in another state where you can't do that and the coaching is not enough, they need more support. I know
Yeah.
you've helped them find a therapist at college and you've collaborated with that therapist. So
Yeah.
when they come home, can you say a little more about how you can also offer those kind of assistance
Yes.
services?
Yes. So yes, obviously over the summer I can be their therapist and within the state of Ohio, but there is definitely times for college students when coaching just isn't going to cut it. And being that I worked on a college campus, I am very, very familiar with how to find the resources on their campus and find places in their community to help them get the help that they need. But I will always be evaluating your child for what they need, and I will speak up quickly if they need more than me. Um, I have a few strict lines that I don't cross of doing virtual work, and that I think that so I will let them know when I feel that in-person work, and maybe that's weekly, maybe that's twice a week, is critical.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's important.
And I'll have them communicate to the parent. I'll step in if I have to, but I also encourage them to have that conversation with their parents, and I coach them on how to have that conversation with their parents and sometimes their professors of what's needed.
Yeah, great. Go ahead, Em.
Katie, yeah, when you say encouraging the college students to actually stay on campus and not return home frequently when they're homesick, what does that mean? Like, you mean every weekend? Can you give us, I'm just kind of curious, like the practicality to that.
Ideally, I think college students could just come home at Thanksgiving and Christmas for that first semester. It's a really long stretch. So there is usually a fall break at the end of September, beginning of October. That's a great time to either go home and visit family or go and visit a friend and just take a breather and get off campus. But I think the more you stay, the more a lot of social interaction and connection happens. On the weekends and in the evenings. And so if you live locally, like trying to avoid going home for dinner a lot during the week. It also forces them to do their own laundry if they have to stay. But yeah, I think I would say encouraging just as, and actually someone who's homesick, I might even push that a little bit more. It can be painful, and I don't just throw them in there and say, sorry for your luck, you're so sad, you have to stay. But just encouraging them, you can call your parents in the morning, you can check in. Maybe a parent could come and spend a Saturday with them if it's close and possible. But when you go home, you really undo a lot of the work that you've achieved in your adjustment process.
Wow, that's a big statement you're saying. I appreciate hearing that.
Yeah, that's a big deal. And it's hard. And having three boys that have launched, I can tell you they will get homesick. And on the parenting side of that, it's important for us not to rescue during that time, right? But it's also important that we're not like harsh and like, well, tough it up, little buddy.
Yeah.
It's really like being very empathic, maybe sharing a story or two about what you remember when you were away at college as your freshman year. Really just super empathize, but always be communicating, I believe in you, and this is
Yeah.
a little bit of a rite of passage, and I believe in you, and I can't wait to see you at Parents Weekend.
Yeah.
We'll be up there. And then
Yeah.
you get to come home at fall break, and it's just important for them to shift and start seeing that they are the ones that are creating the life that they want, rather than the home is doing that for them.
Yes. And I'll encourage students to find places on campus that make them feel like home. Like, hey, do you have a favorite restaurant from home that you could go? Is there a skyline nearby? Or is there a bookstore that you have at home that made you feel comforted? Also, like, if they have access to a kitchen, like cooking a meal that makes them feel home. And then finally, if spirituality is part of faith is part of the student's life, I really will encourage them to lean on a faithful organization, a faith group, or a spiritual center that would make them feel comforted. And so a lot of times students might say, gosh, I went to mass went to a service every week with my family, and I haven't been since I've been to campus. And all of a sudden they start going and they find a faith group and they feel that little piece of home just comes flooding back in.
That's wonderful. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm just going to give another opportunity if a question has come up for if anyone wants to come off mic and unmute their mic and ask, or go ahead and put it in the chat. And just want to remind everybody while you're thinking about that, if you want to schedule a free 20-minute discovery call, you can do that. You can do that straight through Katie. Katie does her own scheduling. So you can certainly reach out to Amanda, our main number, admin@l2t.org, and you can absolutely reach out. And she will point you to Katie because Katie does her own scheduling. So it's really nice that you can have direct access to Katie. I will take this moment to just say a brief thing since we're not getting, some questions right now. So I just want to make sure that you all know we do both therapy and we do coaching. And so Katie does both, just like Emily does both. I do both. And I just want to share a little bit about the difference of that. If your student has a mental health diagnosis, or if you want them to do an intake, a therapeutic intake with Katie for a diagnosis, then these sessions can be submitted to your insurance for out-of-network benefits. So we are not paneled with insurance, but a lot of our clients get money back from the sessions by submitting to their out-of-network, and we can do that if your student's going to be in the state of Ohio. So if they're going to one of the state schools or the private schools in the state of Ohio, if they qualify and have a mental health diagnosis, depression, anxiety, ADHD, trauma, some others, then these sessions can be submitted to insurance, and we can do it as therapy. Some people don't want therapy. They don't need therapy. They would really rather have a coach. They're much more growth minded. I just need somebody to help me through the transition. I don't have a diagnosis, or I did and now I'm fine. Or they're going to another college and they're like, if I need a therapist, I'll find someone in the state of Michigan or in Indiana or wherever I am. I just want a college readiness coach to help me. Then you would do that as a coach. So we work in both ways, and sometimes people get confused. When do I need a coach? When do I need a therapist? And I just wanted to mention that just because that's a financial impact. You can get money back from your insurance with therapy and not for coaching. So just wanted to make sure I clarified that. Okay. Anything else, Emily, you want to ask, or Katie, you want to say?
I know I would have loved to have received you, Katie, as a graduation gift 25 years ago. So I just want to put that plug out there. The more support that we can get through life's transitions, we certainly all know that now as adults, but particularly at that time, is so wonderful. So thank you for what you're offering.
Yeah,
it's so exciting.
My heart is so in this work. So much passion around this age group, and truly helping students succeed in college. I mean, a lot of the college students I see, I'll be in connection with them until they graduate college, and just watching them launch into the real world. And that might just be a 6-month check-in every 6 months of just, do I have my life in order? Can you help guide me? And it's just so beautiful to watch. It's that age from leaving home to launching into the real world. I feel just honored to be able to walk that journey and walk that path with students.
Yeah. I could see it in your face, Katie. I love that you're doing this. And the other thing I will mention, that Katie has a heart for the student, but Katie, also you have a heart for the parents.
Yeah.
And I know, it is a journey for parents. And there have been times that you've tapped me and said, hey, these parents are they're really struggling. This feels like a loss, and they're really struggling. And so, we've matched them with one of our parent coaches. We have several clinicians here that can be a parent coach to help really support parents as you grieve the loss of having that kiddo at home that's now become a young man or a young lady. And we've seen beautiful work on both sides with the parents and the student, and I just really appreciate that you have that holistic approach of including parents at the beginning, but also caring for parents if they need that, and then you do your own, parent coaching as well. So
Mhm.
appreciate that about you.
Yes. And maybe
Yeah.
it's important to say, like, your child, obviously, when they go to college, will be an adult. They'll be over 18. So I think if your child has any hesitation of talking to me, that I run and tell you everything that's going on, I want to just reiterate that I take that confidentiality really seriously. You would, of course, hear from me or your child if there was an emergency and I was concerned beyond what I have to keep confident. But I think a lot of the feedback I get from parents is just thank yous for being a safe space, that they know that they're like, we love to see that my child has met with you in college, because they know that they've just had a safe place to land all their worries and help with some goal setting. And
Yeah. And that does bring me to this kind of final question. Like, what if the student wants to have a free 20-minute phone call with you to see if they, you know, jive with you? Like, I'm sure you do calls, I'm guessing, with the
absolutely.
seniors in
Yeah.
high school.
If
Okay.
you have a child, actually, some kids are actually pretty hesitant to let the parent in at all. Um, I know that's not super comforting to the parent to hear, but I can absolutely do this work just alongside the student only. And that's also super successful.
Yeah. Yeah, and that kind of 20-minute discovery meeting can happen virtually, or if they want to
Mhm.
come into our office, they're welcome to do that. Sometimes people really want to see the office and see Katie in
Mhm.
person, and that can be really, really helpful. Okay, well, guys, I think it's a wrap. I think we did our first webinar. I'm just really excited that we did this. I feel like the content is really, really helpful. I'm really excited to put this on our YouTube channel, so that the folks that have been on the webinar can go back and watch it if they have any questions, or if they wanted to show it to their student, their senior in high school. And start that conversation with your senior. I think open communication with your kiddo that's launching, it's really, really important just to have that open communication. And like Emily said, they may see this as an amazing graduation gift. This might be something they'd be very enthusiastic about. So I just thank you, Katie, so much for all of your years of therapy that have given you such great experience. And I know you do a great job building rapport with the young adult students that you work with and the parents. So I'm so, so grateful to have you here at Learn to Thrive. So thanks so much for talking with us. And Emily, our communications coordinator, thank you so much for helping prepare for this webinar. Amanda too, running things in the background. It's been a whole team effort to pull this off. And stay tuned. We're excited to be able to try to offer these every month. And know that you're going to get a follow-up email from Amanda with a link to our YouTube with Katie's information. And if you need anything else, you can reach out to us. So thank you so much.